What is cyberterrorism? Although there isn't one concrete definition of what it really is, let's have a look at two variations. Dori Fidani says that it covers politically motivated hacking operations intended to cause grave harm, such as loss of life or severe economic damage. But she also goes on to say, to qualify as cyberterrorism, an attack should result in violence against persons or property, or at least cause enough harm to generate fear. Oxford Living Library states that its politically motivated use of computers and information technology to cause severe disruption or widespread fear. Oxford Living Library states that its politically motivated use of computers and information technology to cause severe disruption or widespread fear. What do I think? First of all, let's start by breaking the two words down to get a deeper understanding of what the word really means. Most of us are already familiar with the word terrorism because so much of it is happening around us lately. Terrorism is an act of opposing the law using means of violence or intimidation to get political attention or the attention of an organisation with higher authority than the perpetrator. They usually do this to prove a political point. Cyber means literally anything to do with computers or networks. In short, computers, information and technology and virtual reality. Cyberterrorism is a combination of the two, using information technology as a means to create fear and severe obstruction or permanent damage. Now for a little bit more information on cyberterrorism. There are three main tiers to cyberterrorism attacks: simple unstructured, advanced structured, and complex coordinated. Simple unstructured, the perpetrator can only conduct minor hacks. They can't do very much with the information that they see. They can only do minor things like delete the information that is already there or just simply view it. This is the least harmful as it doesn't have much ability to cause much damage. The tools that they use to do the hacks are usually created by themselves. The next tier is advanced structured. In this level, the perpetrator usually focuses on attacking more than one system at a time, as they have more control and the capability to do more than the previous level. The next level is complex coordinated. This level gives the perpetrator even more control and they can cause much more disruption. Is it a threat? There's no real answer. If you ask many people, 50% will say it is a threat and 50% will say it isn't. Many believe that it is a serious threat, however, many say that its proposed threats are completely over-exaggerated. Some believe that it is a serious threat. People like Barry Collins from the US Institute of Security and Intelligence stated that the threats are real, going on to say that he thinks this because cyber attacks now pose a similar destructive capacity to traditional physical assaults, including multiple casualties. Others believe that it's a serious threat because of the amount of knowledge that you can gain about computers and technology. The fear of what they can do drives people to think that it's something serious to fear. Although the knowledge is not directly for cyberterrorism, it is very easy for one to learn and find ways to do so with the amount of knowledge that is being handed out to people through things like the dark web. In 2003, a survey was carried out by the House of Government Reform Committee Technology. Out of 1,000 people that took the survey, 50% were worried that terrorists would launch attacks through the networks connecting to their home computers. Some strongly believe that it has been over-publicised and extremely exaggerated. There hasn't been a case of cyberterrorism in several years. Some believe that it is mainly private companies who are at risk because their computers aren't air-gapped. And when I say air-gapped, I mean that a network is physically isolated against outer networks and unsecure networks, for example, internet or local area networks. Based on Denning's definition of cyberterrorism, I currently don't think that it's as huge of a threat as it's made out to be. I say this because, till date, there still hasn't been an attack that's caused anybody physical harm. What we are seeing is more of threats and sabotage, such as the 18-year-old that hacked into the CIA in the guise of being part of the team. As he was pretending to be part of the team, he was able to obtain sensitive documents about the military and intelligence operations. Or the attack on Montchishire took place in Italy, whereby an angry employee named Viet Boden caused raw sewage to enter the waterway. None of these attacks caused anybody physical harm. However, the kind of knowledge they used in committing these crimes means that they could have, but they didn't. Some may bring up the case of the 200 abortion doctors being put on a website by anti-abortionist terrorists. Viewers of the website had the ability to put their information, such as their driver's license, their address and their telephone number and full name. Eventually, 3 of the doctors lost their life. Their deaths were not directly caused by the website. Physical contact was involved, so I wouldn't consider it as cyberterrorism. What I believe is happening is that these terrorist groups mainly use cyberspace as a means of communication between themselves and their target, or as a way to voice their opinion. As mentioned by Collins, they have the capacity to do these things, but they just haven't yet. What is the government really doing about this? What is the political effect? Donald Payne, Syrian Homeland Security, think that there will never be a complete solution to this problem. President Trump has encouraged the employment of more security jobs in order to make skills to stop this readily available. Lawmakers will also be pushed for federal agencies to keep up the pressure in order for any gaps to be filled before they can attack. As you can see from this pie chart here, the government and companies are spending a huge amount of money to prevent these types of crimes from happening. The I Love You virus caused over 1 billion in damage. The amount of money lost from these types of attacks would be a good reason for any company, as well as the government, to spend this amount in preventing these types of crimes from happening. The money spent in preventing these crimes from happening also rose from by 27.7% between the years 2016 and 2017. Research done by Daphna Contenti indicated that cyberterrorism can evoke emotions such as anxiety and stress at the same level suicide bombing can. For technology, computers and denial of service was used, which was used in the Estonia attack that blocked people from gaining access to sites such as banks and normal daily websites due to a simple dispute. Twitter is also used to recruit new members to their groups. Smith servers to hack security groups are also used. Encryption is used to block other people from seeing their communication. As you can see in the graph, technology is becoming more and more advanced. I believe that as technology advances, it gives cyber terrorists a chance to invade those new security gaps that are being created along with the advancement of technology. This gives them an opportunity to attack in more various ways than they could before. As we're trying to defeat their old ones, they're also coming up with new ones to defeat the new security gaps that have been created with the new advanced technology. The quality of their attacks will also become sophisticated because they will be able to become more anonymous, especially with the rise in anonymous aids such as Tor and encrypted communications such as Signal. It's also clear to us here that as time goes on, the injuries from these incidents are increasing. This graph also shows that cyber terrorism is becoming more and more extreme. Not that they're causing deaths, but they're getting more and more advanced than they were before. I believe this is going to become even worse because cyber terrorism is much cheaper than physical terrorist attacks. Predators don't have to pay for the gear that they would have used to attack. Rather, they can sit on their laptop and download softwares and use their knowledge to carry out these attacks.
My name is Pete, and I was in charge of forms, types, and also areas of cyber terrorism. First of all, I would like to focus on forms, as cyber terrorism can be split into 4 different categories, which is hacking, and this is basically gaining access to a virtual resource without having permissions, illegally, and without any authorization. Next thing is a virus, which is just simply a piece of code that is able to copy itself, and it aims at damaging the server, the system, slowing down the system, and also distracting and deleting the files. Third thing is a worm, which is just a malicious program that is able to replicate itself, and it replicates itself until it fills out the whole storage space of a drive or a network. The fourth thing is misinformation, which is just spreading wrong or incorrect informations or using someone's identity, for example, identity theft. When it comes to untargeted attacks, first of all, we've got a phishing attack, which involves fraudulent emails to convince a target about legitimacy of a user or a company in order to obtain some of their personal data, such as bank details, passwords, identity theft, things like that. Next thing is a watering hole attack, which is just simple deployment of a fake web page to compromise the original one, and then attack those people who visit our fake web page. Third thing is a ransomware attack, which is just infecting a system with encryption, so all of the files are encrypted. And also all of the users are existing in the system are locked, and it also requires a ransom to gain a normal access to the files again. Fourth thing is a scanning, which just tests for vulnerabilities in specific internet or network and then just exploit it. One of the most popular cyber attacks is also known as biggest ransomware offensive in history. There was a global cyber attack which crippled the NHS, hit international shipper FedEx, and also infected computers in 150 countries. More than 300,000 computers were infected, while the countries most affected by WannaCry were Russia, Taiwan, Ukraine, and India. Mikko Hyppönen, who was a chief researcher officer, called the attack the biggest ransomware outbreak in a whole history. What was the attack and how does it work? Hackers have been spreading a ransomware called WannaCry. It's often delivered via emails, which tricks the recipient into opening attachments and then releasing malware into their system, which is a technique mentioned previously and known as phishing. Once the computer has been affected, it locks up the files and encrypts them in a way that you cannot access them anymore. It then demands payment in Bitcoin in order to regain normal access back again. Security experts warn that there is no guarantee that access will be granted after payment. Some ransomware that encrypts files ups the stakes after a few days, demanding more money and threatening to delete files altogether. WannaCry exploits a vulnerability in Microsoft, which released a patch to fix it in March. However, people don't always install updates and patches on their computers, and so this means vulnerabilities can remain open a lot longer and make things easier for hackers to get in. With advanced antivirus software, it is possible to remove the virus from a computer. It can also be done manually by putting a computer into a safe mode and manually removing the infected files. However, prevention remains the best form of defense. The next thing I'm going to be discussing are targeted attacks. And first one is spear phishing. This one is pretty much the same as the phishing mentioned before. However, it is specially targeted into an individual or organization. The second attack is distributed denial of service. This is to deploy a mass amount of packet requests, often from a botnet to one website or a network, in order to overload the system and also prevent regular access by legitimate users. Next thing is supply chain, which is attacking an element of an organization before it even arrives. And the fourth attack is called zero-day, which is just bespoke exploitation of system with specific vulnerabilities, not even known by the author of the server. There are some various problems related to cyber terrorism. For example, it remains difficult to determine the identity of the initiators of those attacks. As this is internet, so you can be anonymous whenever you want, really. The next thing is that attacks can originate from anywhere, as internet has no boundaries at all. The third thing is that time between the discovery of new vulnerability or a new tool or technique that exploits the server somehow or a system, it's just constantly getting shorter. So the speed, the development is really fast. There's also low cost of tools. So the technology needed to deploy those attacks is really cheap. And also the last problem is that those methods became automated and more sophisticated, which result in greater damage from a single attack.
In my speaking part, I investigate the time and participants of cyberterrorism. With the status of world development, the cyberterrorism is growing rampantly, especially in the internet world. It facilitates the terrorists to do some malicious events. So, as is known to all, terrorism organization of disruption attack against the information system, for example, ISIS, Taliban, Hezbollah, and Hamas, and so on. The ISIS is known as the Islamic State of Iraq and Great Syria. It is an extremist terrorist organization which is active in Iraq and Syria, claiming to be a founding state. The Taliban is an Islamic fundamentalist movement originated in Kandahar, Afghanistan. Most of its members are the students of Islamic schools in Afghan refugee camps. So it is known as the Islamic Students' Army. These two organizations are typical terrorist society in the world. If we are familiar with them, we could understand the cyberterrorism much better. These participants can be individuals, groups, or states, and they consist of close friends, family members, and other strong social networks. The organizations which fight against them are some national security organizations like FBI, CIA, MI5, and MI6. Alongside the secret intelligence service, government communication headquarters, and defense intelligence. MI6 is the foreign intelligence service of the government in the United Kingdom, tasked mainly with the covered overseas collection and analysis of human intelligence in the support of the United Kingdom's security service. Next, we will talk about the time and when did the cyberterrorism happen. The term of cyberterrorism first came out in 1998, and it is introduced by Barry C. Collins. This phenomenon started to expand in 1990 as 2000 approached. The fear and uncertainty about the medium bug has been heightened in this year, and as did the potential attacks by the several terrorists. And some typical examples are like ISIS in 2016 and QDAP in 1999. Furthermore, we could introduce one question: why did the cyberterrorism happen? It depends on the participants who take part in the cyberterrorism events. One of the majority reasons is financial reason. The people who are involved with the cyberterrorism have no capital to study, to work, or even to live normally. They have no choice. Only if by joining the terrorist organization, they would obtain the normal life as Europe. Therefore, the cyberterrorism often happens at the poor area like Middle of the East or Africa. However, there is an increasing evidence that hackers are becoming more and more politically motivated. Cyber-terrorists are aware that governments are reliant on the internet and have exploited this as a result. For example, Mohammed bin Mohammed teaches 39 ways to serve and participate in jihad, and discusses how an electronic jihad disrupted the West through the American website, and other resources seen as anti-secular orientation. To sum up, my part is mainly about the time, the participants, and the reasons of cyberterrorism. Okay, let's hand you over to John. Thank you.
Hi, I'm João, and I'm going to talk about cyberterrorism prevention. The prevention against cyberterrorism are simple measures to make our systems more safer. At the last 20 years, the cyberterrorism is growing up, but at the same time, the studies and the investigation against them was increased too. As you can, like a result of that studies and investigation, some organizations are taking some measures. As you can see, at the last 2 years, there were more attacks than the organizations affected. Those organizations are taking some measures like firewalls, passwords encryption, extraction detection systems, etc. But those are measures don't work together, and it's not a good option to secure a system. We're gonna show some measures that work together and can prevent and can make our systems more safer. We can to make a system more safer. We can start inside the institution. We have to start with client computers on the network. For example, disabling administrator account, it's gonna be an issue for attackers because there are no administrator on the computer and they can't use that skills. Only register users, the users that are known on the institution, on some computer, authentication computer, and there is a measure. Users strong passwords, strong with several mix of characters, numbers, whatever. Antivirus, it's it's principle of the measures. Pop-up blocker activity. Do not allow the users to choose and between have or don't have pop-up blocker. Pop-up blocker activated in no shows. Keep all software operating system security patches and update the other software like antivirus. The client computer's firewall always activated, and internet access only by proxy. This measure can with this measure, the enterprise organization can choose what the users can do in the internet. With servers, we have those measures that could help enterprises. For instance, this one is very important because attacks like ransom, they take care of the directories, encrypt files, and after that there is nothing to do. Do not allow schedule tasks. This is for attacks like Configure. They install automatically tasks if these options is on. Automatically kill all sessions if they have not been used. Why? Because if there is a session like administration with administration skills, it is a door for any attack. Okay? Other sessions in 30 minutes. Use a good antivirus. For large networks, we recommend enterprise corporate antivirus. It's better to use. Only connect to the internet the necessary servers, such as web servers, proxy servers, email servers, because the other ones don't need internet, and it's more safer for the enterprise. Keep all software and operating system patches like security patches, update the antivirus, update. All software must be always updated. Strong passwords. In case of servers, we recommend with 8 characters, combinations of numbers, symbols and letters. All critical servers must have dynamic password, changing every minute. This is very important. This is every minute you have a new password. It's good for the safety of servers, like Microsoft as Active Directory Microsoft, and other tools does the same thing. Operating systems firewall activated on all servers. And that's it. We must remember is that who uses the computer are humans, and the human behavior could be an issue for the attackers. For instance, if a person or employee don't know what to do with the email, you don't know that email, it could be an issue for the organization. If they don't, at least, but not last, we have the protection from outside world. This is not the most important, but one of the most important, because it's gonna protect us from the outside world. Here we recommend to use networking equipment, routers, firewalls, not computers doing firewall, not computers doing routing. Here we recommend equipment, networking equipment. It's more safe and works better than computers. Router protection, there is a way to put 4 routers working and doing some redundant connected routers, and this is a measure, it's before the firewall. These firewalls, networking equipment, all are with networking inspection systems, like software that detects out of normal behavior on networks. This must be monitoring all the time, because it knows what is our compartment, our behavior in our network, and will detect abnormal behaviors, and it's a good prevention against attacks. Working console on critical communication equipment must be personal and physically. It is a big mess for the guys who do the maintenance of the equipment, but must be physically. It's a strong protection way for communication equipment. Inside-outside traffic always being monitored. This rule is for these networking inspection systems. All that we talk here, if are working together, it could be a good measure to save or make our systems more safer.